If you've ever colored hair extensions and they came out spotty, splotchy, uneven, this video's for you. I'm gonna be sharing all of my best tips on how to color hair extensions with demi-permanent or even with direct dyes. And if you're new here, my name's Morella Manelli and I'm a hair educator and salon coach, and I'm so excited to get this video started. But before we do, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you don't miss a video. Now let's go ahead and get started. To kick off this video, the very first step and the most important step is to go ahead and match the extensions as best as possible. And the way you're going to do this is by using the swatch card. So swatching is going to be the most important step to coloring your hair extensions. And while your hair extension swatches and the hair extensions might not match exactly to the hair that you're working with, getting as close as possible is going to give you a much more predictable end result. Now, if you're going to be doing some creative shades, using something like color 60 or color 80 is going to be imperative. So if you know that you're going to be doing a very cool end result, color 80 is probably going to be your best choice because it already has that cool tone. But that's not to get ahead of ourselves yet, because there are some steps just in case you order color 60 and you do want a cool end result. There is or are some ways around that. But basically what I'm saying here is if you can get as close as possible to ordering the right color and tone, it's gonna make your life so much easier. The second tip is to only use demi-permanent or direct dye hair color on hair extensions. I do not recommend using permanent hair color, nor do I recommend putting any lightener or bleaching services or color removers on top of the hair extension. The reason for that is even though the hair extensions are already 100% human hair, they've already been really processed. So why are you gonna go in and do something that's going to strip the layers off of the hair like a lightener? We don't want to cause any more damage than necessary. This is why step one is super important, so that we have a nice canvas that's deposit only. Even if the hair dye that you're working with says that it's super gentle, you're always going to want to use something that is a demi-permanent, semi-permanent, or a direct dye. Now, step three is what I was mentioning a little bit earlier, which is you can pre-tone your hair extensions if necessary. So if you're doing a cool end result and you want to pre-tone them and you think that it's going to be necessary because you want that cool end result, then you can do it with a blue or a purple shampoo. So the way you're going to do this is use a blue or purple treatment right onto the hair. You can do this right in your shampoo basin and basically do a pre-treatment. Now there's tons of different ways that you can do this. You can pre-mix the water, you can put the treatment right on top of the hair, and there's lots of different techniques out there, but you're going to use the one that's best for you for the canvas that you're trying to achieve. My fourth tip is you're always going to want to color onto damp hair. So in order for the hair to really absorb fully the color that you're applying, you're gonna wanna help open up that cuticle. And what better way to do that than with water? Dampening the hair extensions alone is already gonna swell up the hair, allowing for it to be completely open to hug those color molecules and love them forever. However, this does bring me to my fifth tip, which is even though you're wetting the hair extensions, you are going to want to remove that first outer layer that the hair comes beautifully packaged in. And the way I do this is by using a really gentle clarifying shampoo. Now, not all clarifying shampoos are the same. There are some that have higher pH and some with lower pH. I personally like using Kenra Professional clarifying shampoo. It is not super high on the pH, so it's going to give a nice surface cleanse that's not going to dehydrate the hair whatsoever. And then once you've done that clarifying shampoo, you're going to do a thorough rinse. Now you are ready to actually color the hair extensions. The reason why I mention this is because there's lots of great clarifying shampoos out there, but some are for color corrections. For example, Malibu C's Undo Goo, which has a pH of 9. And while I love Undo Goo and I love it for specifically for color corrections and black box dye color corrections, which I have a video on that in the description down below, it's really not made for hair extensions. However, they do have a treatment that's specifically for hair extensions. So again, depending on the brand that you're trying to work with, make sure that it's just a gentle cleanser. Now, my next tip, along with of course, coloring onto damp hair, that's been clarified. You're gonna wanna make sure that you color on both sides of the hair. So depending if you're working with wefts, care links, eye links, no matter the type of hair extension, you're gonna want to flip it over. So this is imperative. So if you've ever done highlights or a color application, you know that if you just apply the color to one side and you were to lift it up, you're gonna see that color might not have saturated all the way through. So the best way to avoid this is after you've saturated the one side, you're just gonna flip it over and repeat painting it onto the other side. There are some added tips like combing them through and really using your hands to work in the product. But overall, you're gonna wanna make sure you thoroughly saturate both sides of the hair. My next tip with coloring hair extensions is don't be afraid to color against the grain. This is where you're gonna take that color brush and really stroke up and down and side to side and really just work it in. So I know I already mentioned using your hands and turning the hair over on each side, but your brush work is just as important. The overall goal is to really manipulate that hair so that way those color molecules can go in and do its thing. So the more that you brush up against the grain and paint it back down and brush it side to side, work it in with your hands. This is how you're gonna avoid all of that spotty, splotchy look that a lot of times happens when coloring hair extensions. Another really important thing when stroking up the colors, don't be afraid to go right to where the bond is at. So a lot of times we miss that area where the bond's at because we're afraid to get color onto our tape or onto our weft line, but it's simply okay to go ahead and paint it right on. And the reason you want to do this is because if you don't, you will create a really awkward, weird looking line and you're just gonna feel like you need to color it again. So make sure to not overlook that little area where your bond and the hair meet and just really work it in there. The next tip is you're going to want to allow for a full processing time on your hair extension color. Now there's lots of different information out there that hair extensions color really, really quickly, but a lot of times what I like to do is, in addition to all of the tips that I just shared with you, is I usually put a timer on for about 10 minutes because my toner processes in 20. So after 10 minutes of processing, I go back through and start to manipulate the hair again, reapply if necessary, and really work it in. Allowing for the full processing time is what's going to help with saturation, the finish, and the longevity of the color. There is nothing worse than putting a full head of gorgeous hair extensions and then your client goes home to wash them for the first time and it just completely washes out looking like a completely different color than their actual hair. So in order to avoid that, just go ahead and let that process for the full amount of time. Now I think I mentioned this already, but I'm gonna piggyback on another tip, which is using a comb to comb through for blending. So if you're using 2 or more colors for an ombre or a balayage blend, or maybe for some lowlights, using a wide tooth comb is going to be essential to help blend in those extensions. I find that a lot of times if I don't use a comb or I'm not using my hands to really blend in that line, it can come out a little spotty, and a lot of times as it starts to process, I do like to go back and keep blending that line, and this is how you're going to create a really gorgeous ombre blend. Overall, what I'm saying here is don't be afraid to use the tools necessary in order to create the end result that you're looking for. So whether that's a rat tail comb to create some highlights, weaves, maybe some low light, or using your hand to do some further blending, using a separate dry brush to go in and create a little special effect so that way you can diffuse those lines of demarcation. All these things are going to help with the end result that you're trying to achieve. Now the very last tip, and this is probably one of the most important ones, you're gonna wanna pay attention. There is nothing worse than doing a beautiful blend, saturating perfectly, and then you don't rinse it in cool water. So please do. The cool water is what's gonna help close up that cuticle, and this is the perfect opportunity to layer in a low pH conditioner. So like I mentioned before, the clarifying shampoo along with the water is going to help swell open the cuticle. Then your color is going to embrace it and love it forever. And now we want to go and close up that cuticle. So the best way to do this is using cool water or even cold water, really rinsing it thoroughly. And a lot of times I avoid shampoo altogether. For me, there's really no reason to use shampoo unless you're doing a actual human, and that's because color does usually live on the scalp, so you just kind of want to remove any residue. With hair extensions, there's no skin contact, so doing a really great rinse until the water runs clear, and then following up with a treatment, or like I mentioned, a low pH conditioner that's going to help close up that cuticle, helping the longevity of your color. Another great hack is if you like coloring with your hair extensions kind of dangling down, the strand organizer is a great option. The only tip that I would say is if you are going to be using the strand organizer, make sure you're really working that color into that bond area, because the little metal teeth can push some color off. So the strand organizer overall is a really great tool. It is like an extra set of hands that really help organize your hair extensions, especially if you don't have an assistant. So using the strand organizer just to kind of be a placeholder for your hair extensions processing, or maybe you're doing some light toning, or overall just kind of drying your hair extensions right before you color the hair. This is a great tool to have on hand, and I highly recommend it. I'm also going to be putting that in the description down below, along with a little coupon code, so that way you can save on your strand organizer and stand. Now, I really hoped you enjoyed these tips, but if there was one that I missed or one that you enjoy using for coloring hair extensions, I'd love to hear it. Drop it down below in the comments. So I really hope you enjoyed this hair tutorial, and if you did, please give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. You can also find me on my other social channels like Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, all under Mirella Manelli. And if you want free education sent right to your inbox, be sure to head on over to my website, morellamanelli.com, and join the newsletter. Don't forget to listen to my podcast, Hair B&B. It's where I help hairstylists just like you simplify hair, beauty, and their business. And if you're a hairstylist looking to elevate their social media game, maybe you want to learn more about brand partnerships, monetization, or how to negotiate some brand deals, you're not going to want to miss out on my group coaching session called Beyond the Chair Mastermind. It's where we meet once a month to elevate your social media marketing game. If you want to learn more about Beyond the Chair Mastermind, be sure to check out the link in the description down below. And if you want a little behind the scenes of what it's like to be a YouTuber, salon owner, content creator, and entrepreneur, I'm wearing way too many hats here, be sure to check out my YouTube memberships right here on this site. Plus you get the cute little clip and blow dryer emojis. I mean, how fun are those badges? And finally, all of the links to everything I discussed are right down below in the description. And be sure to check out my other videos right here on this channel, and I will see you in the next video. I literally do way too much.